Welcome back to Women's Health. All October, the plan is to talk about the pelvic floor, and we'll probably come back to pelvic floor a few times after this month because it's quite a large and complex issue. But I'm just going to try and give you like some fundamentals that you can start with and start improving your pelvic health. So first, I want to bust some myths and make some things clear. Number one is a strong pelvic floor does not mean there are no pelvic symptoms. It is possible to have incontinence or another kind of pelvic dysfunction and have a strong pelvic floor. Sometimes it's too strong or too tight, not reactive enough, or your superficial abs and core muscles override it or create so much intra-abdominal pressure that your pelvic floor can't cope. So it's about the balance of the muscles more than whether a group of muscles is strong or weak. Strong or weak. Another myth I want to quickly just get out in the open is pelvic floor dysfunction only affects mums and only affects mums who have had a vaginal delivery. And that's just not true. Different pelvic dysfunctions will affect different women who have had different deliveries differently. So a C-section is more likely to have some issues with diastasis than someone who's had a a vaginal birth. And then there's other risks that go back and forth. Also, in athletic populations, and the studies done with university age athletes show that some sports and women participating in those sports have twice the rates of incontinence to general populations. So pelvic health is actually a much larger topic. It affects not just the athletes for that matter, but also overweight people, men and women, smokers. If you're all elderly people, I think 80% of elderly people wet the bed at night, and those who are chronically constipated. So if you're always pushing down, stuff's going to happen. So the point I'm trying to make is it's a big deal. And these skills have been shown to cure incontinence in 80% of cases. And they can also reverse a prolapse, which is when your organs come out where they shouldn't. Usually in women, it's out their vagina. It can reverse a prolapse by 1 full degree, which is a lot. It's like having your organs on the outside of your body back to the inside of your body. What is a strong pelvic floor? So for me, a strong pelvic floor is one that lifts and drops at the right time. So there's strength, there's length, and there's timing. And we have to train all three. Also, we can't effectively train the pelvic floor if you're constantly bearing down. So we've got to take the pressure off of it in posture, and we've got to keep the pressure off with mobility through the thoracic. So you've got length, strength, timing, pressure or posture, and mobility. There's a lot in pelvic health, and I think I've made my point now. This month, we're going to look at the main building blocks of a truly functional or strong pelvic floor, strong according to our definition, not in terms of absolute strength. And today, we're going to start with the weak pelvic floor, but when I say weak, it could also be long, it could also be stretched, it could also be unresponsive, nerve damage, it could be overworked, like postures constantly bearing down, or you're really strong in your abs, constantly pushing down. It could be scarred. There could be nerve disconnection because you've torn when you gave birth, stuff like that. So weak is not the whole picture. Very few of us are just weak. Weaker, maybe, than the core muscles, but furthermore, a weak pelvic floor could also show up as like chronic back pain. It may not be, the typical incontinence, feelings of heaviness in your vagina. It might be something you feel is completely unrelated, like a hip injury. So for this reason, it's really important to get diagnosed first. And there's a link in the comments where you can search Australia, New Zealand, and Ireland for a women's health physio near you, and you search by postcode. Once you're diagnosed and once the physio has said your pelvic floor needs strengthening, then there's a process. So you do the exercises the physio gives you 2-3 times a day, and then we build on that. So just sitting where you are, we're going to do the building phase, sitting at our desks watching each other. So first thing I'd like you to do is add visualization. So if I say to you, lift pelvic floor, right? Most of us can do it. But if I say, just imagine picking a tissue up gently off the floor and placing it back down, for some people that'll make it easier to lift their pelvic floor. If I say, imagine your vagina as a pair of elevator doors, I want you to close the doors and just go up to level 1. Say it's a 100-story building, okay? We just want to drive the highway, close the doors, up to level 1. We don't want to go to level 100. It's the repetition that builds the strength, not the how hard you squeeze, okay? And if there are any personal trainers watching this, that's for you. But for the rest of us, it's just about picking it up, putting it down. Next, we add breath. Now, this is not the only way to breathe when training the pelvic floor, and it's also not necessary to do this like in all your training and all your movements, okay? This is just to enhance the effect of your Kegel contraction. So what I want you to do is I want you to pick that tissue up on the exhale. So when you're breathing in, or we can imagine a jellyfish this time. Imagine the jellyfish is flaccid, breathe in, relax to the chair, then breathe out, lift. Now the reason why I breathe in, relax, breathe out, lift. So the reason why we train the exhale first and foremost as our first priority is because women generally are most vulnerable, sneezing, laughing, coughing, yelling on impact. It's that moment where we develop or we generate a lot of intra-abdominal pressure with our abdominals, and our pelvic floor is relatively weaker. What we need to do is build up that pelvic floor with that core muscle strength so that they're equally as strong and equally as reactive. You don't think about your abs when you sneeze. Your pelvic floor should be just as strong when you sneeze. And you may have to train that on its own at first. All right, so we added visualizations. We added exhale. Then we add activations. So activations are just a way of tensioning your body, right? So again, I'll give you 2 or 3, but you might need something different. So if I get you to breathe in, relax, put the tissue down. Breathe out, press your hands together, pick that tissue up. Breathe in, relax. Breathe out, press. This time, pop your tongue into the roof of your mouth. Breathe in, relax. Let the jellyfish landlubber posture. Breathe out, press your tongue into the roof of your mouth and take a little stroke. Breathe in, relax. Breathe out, tongue into the roof of your mouth. Now, if you're using power plate, this phase is done with the power plate off, okay? So you can squeeze your feet, your hands together using the stem. So breathe in, relax. Breathe out, press the hands. Lift the tissue. You can press outways, use your back. Breathe in, relax. Breathe out, press out. You can press down. You can press up. You can use your feet. Press into the plate with your foot. Okay? But the point is to tension your body on your exhale while also lifting the pelvic floor. Now, any of these exercises are easier if you're lying down and a little harder if you're standing up. So lying, sitting like we started, standing, do the Kegel, visualize, add the breath, and then tension your system. Once you're good at that, some clients or people, women will do it in a session, others will do it over 6 months. When you've got those skills, then you turn the power plate on. And that's important because the power plate it requires more from your body. But once you turn the power plate on, you will accelerate that lift and that reactivity of the pelvic floor. So it is good to do, but you do it. That's the next step in this journey.